And welcome to the Bob Bryant, Jeff Goodman, Tanguay Along for the Ride podcast. And we got a lot to do. We have a ton on the table. All right, let's get to it, guys. My mind is ready. My mind is going to explode. Bob, I'll start with you first regarding Ime Udoka. Obviously, leaves Boston under the shroud of controversy. We've heard so many rumors, so many reasons why he was booted. We can tell you that, just to reiterate, something along the lines of having an improper relationship with another member of the Celtics organization. So we think he's gone. Next thing you know, Nash gets fired with the Nets, and he's down there with the Brooklyn Nets. Your thoughts on the whole situation?
That the Nets are giving new cachet or new shine to the phrase tone deaf. How could they, under these circumstances, decide that this would be an appropriate time to hire the tainted Ime Udoka to solve their problem? Now, the first question that comes up, do they know something we don't know? Do they know something the Celtics don't know? I don't know. I mean, because all we have is rumors about what really happened and who's involved, and we're not going to get into anything.
A lot of speculation. Still a lot of speculation.
I heard something the first day that I've never heard repeated, and I don't know how accurate it was.
But we do know this, Bob. We do know this, and I think we need to set the table for this. It was serious enough for the Celtics to say so long to a coach that brought him to the NBA Finals. So I think that for the purpose of the discussion, I just need to be clear. It was a serious situation, enough for the Celtics to say goodbye to a guy who was on the doorstep of winning a title.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And at least by their standards, whatever those standards are, that we only have a vague, generality supposition about. That's all. Whatever the standards are, and the standards of any workplace in America, in the world of Me Too that we are living in the year 2022. That there's a certain obvious no-nos. And one no we know of is a male authority taking up with a subordinate female, and if that's what he did, that's hardly that's something that at most workplaces frown upon. Period. But beyond that, we don't know any details or anything else. It's so.
What we know, Bob, is that there probably wasn't anything legal, or else the Nets wouldn't have done this. What we know is it happened within the Celtics organization, and the Nets were saying to themselves, you know what? It happened over there. We feel like he won't do it again. It wasn't anything legal that the woman pressed charges or anything like that. And ultimately, it's, number one, what does KD want? Number two, win at all costs. Because this dude was a great coach. He did turn around the Boston Celtics. Let's be honest. We're not questioning any of that. Ime Udoka was a phenomenal coach in his 1 year at the helm of the Boston Celtics. But I think it was more of like, all right, it happened within the Celtics organization. We can't keep him. We can't keep him because of, again, the dynamics. But the Nets were saying to themselves, you know what? It happened over there. He apologized. We talked to him. He said he won't do it again. And boy, he's a hell of a coach. And number two, KD wants him, so we're gonna give him another shot.
Okay, but all that said, and that leads us to the interesting idea that the Celtics are seeking. They just want to wash their hands of the whole thing, obviously, right? That they're seeking no compensation here. And the two things that people are suggesting that are at the root of what they're doing: one, it's money. They're out of. They don't have to pay him a dime now. And two, if in case, and this goes back to what you were saying about there's no legal, but how do we know if in case there is some legal problem down the road, it's not their problem anymore.
Right.
It's the Nets' problem. And if there is such a thing, I mean, otherwise, that does leave the open question, and it's a good one because historically, this is a Celtic organization that goes back to Red Auerbach demanding compensation for Bob Cousy on retiring 6 years after he retired in 1963 to go play for the Cincinnati Royals and demanding a player and getting one. This goes. I mean, and now they're not going to get compensation for this very valuable commodity that you have just outlined.
They wanted to fire him. Obviously, they wanted to fire him, but they felt like, again, they didn't want to be on the hook if they fired him for a potential legal battle to try to recoup that money. Instead, they knew that somebody would probably hire Ime Udoka, which would take them off the hook for the money.
I think, Bob, the reason the Celtics just want this to go away because it's Pandora's box. If this continues to be an issue, if this continues to be negotiations with the Nets for compensation, it's going to be in the media. People are going to dig and people are going to talk. That's my opinion. That's the only thing I can think of, is that the Celtics just don't want any of this stuff to come bubbling up to the surface. Because up until this point, it was over. It was over. Everybody had forgotten about it.
Yeah, it was quiet.
It was quiet. You know,
we knew this day was coming, and we knew there was.
I didn't think it was going to happen this soon.
Well, listen, I'm not a big Stephen A. fan, but I think he was the one who said it right away, or recently, that, you know what, the reason, that was that the Nets were going to be, when Nash got fired, that the Nets were going to go after Ime Udoka. And listen, I'll tell you what, if I'm Steve Nash, I'm celebrating right now. I'm drinking wine every single night, and the longevity of my life just added probably 5 years to it by not having to deal with that shit show in Brooklyn.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about the two teams here. Let's start with the Celtics, then we'll get to Kyrie and the Nets. Okay, Bob, Marcus Smart, to me, wow, he's got to be careful. He's got to be careful. I can understand. I'm going to put myself in the player's position too. However, ownership, I don't know how they're going to feel about Marcus being very critical of the organization, saying that it makes no sense that Ime can go coach in Brooklyn, but he can't coach here for us. That's basically what Marcus said, among other things. Mm-hmm. Do you think that players need an explanation from ownership now?
Yes, I think they always needed one. I mean, they should have been given chapter and verse for such a serious thing as losing this coach that they believed in, that had served them well, with whom they had a personal and professional relationship with, in a sense. Now, I kind of assumed that they knew what was going on. And when I first read the comment, not the most recent ones, but the ones the other day, when he was saying the nice things about both Ime and Joe Mazzulla, I thought that was provocative enough, but I was surprised to find out that the implication was that they don't know what was going on.
They know. They may not have been told. They know what was going on.
You would think so, but I think but to answer your question, guy, no, am I wrong? What do you guys think? Do you think that they weren't? Do you think they were or were not owed a? Well, but
I think that the truth lies somewhere in the middle of both of what you're saying. I think Jeff is right. I think they know, but I think it's all been secondhand. True. And they had an idea, right. And I don't think that
officially, tags. Yeah. I think nobody went down and told them and correct. Said, "Hey guys, here's what happened. And that's probably not Brad Stevens. That's probably on either Brad or Wick, right? It's on one of the two.
And believe me, I think that this is a very, very difficult situation for ownership. When you have lawyers and all this involved, I mean, it is so hard for them to deal with this. And quite frankly, they're dodging landmines with this stuff. Okay. So, but I do think, Jeff, that I do think right now ownership should have a team meeting and say, this is why we did it. Here are the ramifications, guys. And they forced us to do it. I think that needs to happen now.
I mean, and the idea that he's gone, where he's gone, it just absolutely exacerbates the whole situation. If he went out to coach in Sacramento, who cares? They wouldn't, nobody around here would care. Nobody. But this thing going in the division and the hot potato that the net, that are the Nets are the Nets, it changes the whole discussion.
This episode of the Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn. As the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview fast and free. What I love most about LinkedIn is their range. Create a job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/scribe. That's linkedin.com/scribe to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, do you think what Marcus said is going to cause a problem, Jeff?
I mean, here's the quote. Obviously we wish he was here. We have no control over that. It definitely sucks. I guess it was deemed that whatever happened was enough for him not to be the coach here, but I guess not enough for him not to be a coach anywhere else, obviously. Again, I think he's just looking at it from a standpoint of, all right, listen, why couldn't he have gotten a second chance here? He's getting one somewhere else. Why couldn't they suspend him for the year and still bring Ime Udoka back or suspend him for half the year? Marcus is the one guy who wears his emotions on his sleeve on this team, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody else thinks before they speak. Al Horford, he's never going to say anything flammable. Tatum, that's not him. Even Jaylen Brown, who's outspoken, is very calculating in what he says. Marcus says what he believes, and there's no filter in it, and you got to respect him for that. I don't think this will hurt him as long as Marcus Smart plays at a high enough level and they keep winning games. He'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I think it's internally, I suspect it'll be looked upon as Marcus being Marcus, and they've learned to live with him. He is the longest tenured player. Remember, they've seen it all in a sense with heard it all with Marcus.
You take the good and the bad with Marcus, right? Yeah. There's a lot of really good, and then there's some bad with Marcus. So, but the bad is also a lot of truth.
I wouldn't even go to bad. I'd just go
right. Truth.
Yeah, I would go is just no, I don't know.
Well, that's what it is here. It's what we know most of the team is probably feeling, but Marcus has the balls to say it.
Yeah,
and give him credit for it,
and the playing stature to do it too. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, final question on this, Jeff. Do you think Wick should have a sit down with Marcus and explain it to him?
I think we're past that. I don't think that matters.
All right, let's go to the road show of Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, for people, just to remind people, tweeted out an anti-Semitic film, was slow to apologize, has since apologized and offered $500,000 to the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, which they have turned down. I don't know, Bob, your thoughts on it. I just don't think he's just not worth it.
It's the thing is you have to decide if he is worth it, because he is extraordinarily talented. He's still talented, and it's a conundrum there. What is true is, to me, as I've said from the beginning, this is a classic example of the old adage, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. He isn't stupid, but he's not remotely as smart as he thinks he is. And he has developed this idea that he's some kind of deep thinker, and he's smarter than the rest of us. And he calls himself a beacon of light. He's dangerously, half informed person, and it never ends, and it won't end. And the Nets, I said when he was here, that when he left here, that it won't be his last stop. And of course, it wasn't. And he's
smarter than everybody else. That's all.
He is what he is. We know it. We know it now. And the Nets now are the latest to find out. But the question that the question is, do you put up with the crap because of what you get on the court? Well, when he plays a game as he did the other day, 2 for 12, 4 points, no, but that's an aberration. We know that. he's better than that. But this is what you get. This is the Cleopatra and the asp. You knew damn well what I was, and they should have known damn well what he was.
Well, they knew. Come on, everybody knew. Everybody within the league knew. Here's what I'll say with Kyrie, and I've known him since he was 16 years old. Okay, dealt with him at 16 as a high school player. Dealt with him at Duke. Been around him a little bit in Cleveland, obviously in Boston, and now he's with Brooklyn. And here's what I'll say. In my 30 or so years of covering, I haven't been doing as long as Bob, but I'm probably about 30 years or so. I've been covering sports at all levels, every sport. I will put Kyrie Irving up there as the most condescending athlete that I have ever been around at any sport at any level in 30 years.
Wow. Yeah, he thinks he's something that he is not, and he just is. And who? I don't know. This kid, who's going to tell him? Obviously.
You can't.
Well, it's got to be Kevin Durant. It's got to be Kevin Durant because obviously that might be the only guy he respects enough.
I think Durant is sick of him. I think Durant is just like.
I'm sure he is.
I mean, but Durant, I don't even know if Durant can corral this kid.
I don't either, but I think that's your best shot right now because of the respect that Kyrie, I think, has for Kevin Durant, certainly on the court. Right? Certainly on the court. I don't know if he respects him off the court, but I'll give you a couple stories, guys. I remember when Kyrie first got to Boston, I go to a bunch of games early for the Celtics, and I'm asking the Celtics media early on, the ones who have been at training camp every day, how's Kyrie been? Oh, he's been great. I said, all right, I'm going to be gone for a couple months, probably, college games, and I'll be back. Couple months, I'll see you. And sure enough, I come back a couple months later, ask the same guys, so how's Kyrie now? They're like, man, you're right. He is awful to deal with. And the other thing that you'd see with Kyrie is like anytime I'd sit down with Kyrie, whether it was, I remember back at Duke, I did a sit down with him, 20 minutes. And, you record it and he's saying all these things and using these words and big words and this and that. And the end of it, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, he didn't make sense. He didn't make sense on a lot of this shit.
Right.
Let me go back. Let me listen to it. Maybe it was me. Maybe I'm just having a bad day or I didn't get enough sleep or whatever. I'm going to listen to this and make sure. So sure enough, I listened to it. Like he made no sense. And he still makes no sense. And he thinks he knows everything. And that's the most dangerous person to me. The one who thinks they know everything, who talks down to everybody, and now starts spewing. I spoke to yesterday a former NBA player, and he said, he goes, this dude thinks that he's smart. He went to one semester at Duke. That's his college education, by the way. We forget that. He didn't go to Stanford for 4 years.
I don't forget that.
Right. He went to basically one semester of classes at Duke. Come on. Like, I'm done. I'm done with Kyrie. Like, to me, my nickname for Kyrie from now on is condescending Kyrie. That's who he is.
Look better, feel better. AG1 Athletic Greens cost less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health. It's cheaper than your cold brew habit. You're investing in all-in-one nutritional insurance. They've got over 7,000 five-star reviews recommended by professional athletes. Supports mental clarity, alertness, sleep better, recover better. Contains less than 1 gram of sugar. So check it out with Athletic Greens. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. Go to athleticgreens.com. Okay. So
before we
yes.
get, I want to say one more thing. I think maybe it isn't necessary, but I think it's wise for us to do this. We are 3 middle and age in 2 cases and elderly in another case, white males discussing a 30-year-old black male. And this is potentially dangerous territory in where we live in. I want to stress the fact that several of our very esteemed African-American colleagues in this business have absolutely eviscerated Kyrie Irving in the last 24 hours.
The player I spoke to was black, by the way, former NBA player.
And friends of people I consider friends and respect in this business who happen to be African-American are just torching this guy. So I just want to make it clear that, in no way is there a racial component to our denunciation of him at all. He just happens to be African American. He is a ill-informed person that thinks he is a genius, and he just happens to be African American. I just want to make that statement.
Gary, are we going to talk at all about the Nets punishment that they put on Kyrie of at least 5 game suspension now?
We can also discuss about the lack of Adam Silver's involvement. I know.
Yes, I wanted to tie those in together because somebody did call me.
Go ahead. This floor is yours on that because Silver's been at hand's length, and right now Kyrie's looking at 5 games.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Bob this because somebody actually called me and asked me. They said, if David Stern were still the NBA commissioner right now, what would he have done? How long would it have taken him to penalize Kyrie Irving? It took the Nets until, think of how much he's done, how long it took. And Adam Silver, yes, he wanted to meet with Kyrie. And I don't think he was going to suspend him. Maybe he was, but it took the Nets to suspend him. And they had a pretty harsh statement that came out there basically saying we're not standing for this. And he's going to be suspended without pay for at least 5 games, a minimum of 5 games. Until I don't even know if that apology will be enough. We'll see on Instagram. But Bob, going back to it first, of if David Stern had still been alive right now, what do you think would have happened?
Well, David was very proprietary about this league, his league, and I know that, and I think he would have recognized that things and been more forceful. And by the way, I'm a pretty good fan of Adam Silver. This is a difficult.
Me too.
But but David was a towering figure, and he probably would have been more forceful. But I'm not. I have great sympathy for Adam Silver having to deal with this mess. But you're right. I think the implication here is clear that David probably would have been more forceful.
Yeah, it was his league. When you talk about David Stern, what's your opinion on this, Jeff, on Silver so far?
Yeah, I think he's been soft for the most part, but I also think he's in a tough spot being Jewish in this one.
Yep.
You're in kind of a tough spot, and again, I think he waited and was hoping that the Nets would do something.
Right.
And finally, almost Kyrie first. It was almost like FU, right? That they wanted the apology and he wouldn't give it. Right? Like publicly, everybody wanted it, and he just fought it. And finally, the Nets had no other choice but to suspend him. To me, again, I think it comes down to win at all costs. And you're hiring Ime Udoka. You've got Kevin Durant. You've got a window here.
Yes.
He's going to be back. I'd be surprised unless he does something else. Which now he's apologized on Instagram. I don't know how much I actually believe his apology or feel that he did it because he felt like he was backed into a corner here and still wants to play basketball. And again, the hardest part for me is I've still seen Kyrie on his best days. So I'm torn because again, most days he is that condescending figure that I talked about. But man, there are some days where Kyrie is super likable, obviously is very gracious with his time and helping people. So there is another side of Kyrie, and that's what I think makes it even that much more difficult to try to.
I keep hearing these references to the community work and the charity work and stuff, and I'm not denying, doubting it. And so yes, I can see that. This is what the complication, the complicated factor here.
This is what players said who played with him. They would literally tell me it was like we were walking on eggshells. We never knew when we walked in the locker room or we walked into practice every single day what Kyrie we were going to get.
Right. So now the Nets have a situation where they brought in a new coach, and hopefully, in their eyes, Durant and everybody comes together. So let's talk about it on the floor. Jeff, in your opinion, will this work for the Nets this season?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, they got too much drama going on, too much drama. And you're not dealing with a bunch of 26, 27-year-olds in their prime right now. You're dealing with still an older Kevin Durant, an older Kyrie Irving to some extent, Ben Simmons, who's got his own issues right now, Jesus. And now you're bringing in a coach that he's got baggage. I just, there's too much drama there, and they can't guard Bob Ryan right now.
Well, I had some good low post move stuff, so I don't know.
That's right.
But you mentioned Ben. I mean, I forgot for about 10 minutes here. I forgot that Ben Simmons existed. But you throw him into the middle of this with his own issues, and boy, he has issues. What a mess! Because the word everybody used, the popular word, the word of the times, dysfunctional. Okay, fine, whatever. But I by the way, gentlemen, I'm giving you a sneak preview, not a sneak preview, but I alert you to my Sunday column forthcoming in the Boston.
Oh, I can't wait!
I've addressed the Nets in a way that not everybody is doing, and so I call your attention to it.
That is a must read. The one thing I will say to wrap this up, I'm just really disappointed as a basketball fan that the Nets with Durant and Harden and Kyrie didn't work, because I thought on the floor, we love all those players. And I just was looking forward to great basketball, and it hasn't happened, which is a bummer. Speaking of that, excuse me. As far as the Celtics are concerned right now, guys, how do we feel about Coach Mazzulla? How do we feel about their start? And Bob, I'll give you the floor.
Ambivalent to a degree. It would have been nice to sneak out one of those Cavalier games, but we did feel that, I think the three of us, that Cavaliers had improved significantly in the offseason, and now elevated themselves into a Eastern Conference contending role. And so congratulations, Cavaliers. You won these two important and nice games. There's been good, a lot of good. And Brogdon turned out to, is going to be what we thought he was, and all that. Rebounding would be an issue, and it is. I'll go back to what I was told by the general manager, that they need to want to tread water until they get Mr. Williams back. So it's predictable that would be a weakness, and that's all I can say. As far as Joe Mazzulla is concerned, it's funny, what the great thing that everyone is now harping on is this timeout thing that he doesn't like to call times out. And the last guy that that had that as a part of his image was Phil Jackson. I can remember this being an issue back in when he was coaching the Lakers and against the Celtics and those in 2008, and that he would sit there while the things were happening. But I don't know how, Jeff, what do you think of all that? I mean, how much of an issue is it, or should it be?
He's going to learn. I mean, that's the thing, is he's 7 games into his NBA coaching career. 3 years ago, he was the head coach at Fairmont State. So, we got to give him a little bit, like we did with Ime, right? We gave Ime.
Hell, they were 19 and 22, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, you had to give him 40 games, and we were ready to fire him. Some people, we actually weren't. We were saying it wasn't on Ime. He had a lot of bad habits to correct on that team. But, Joe Mazzulla is dealing without Robert Williams. He didn't have Gallinari. Now, they didn't have Gallinari last year. But yeah, I mean, I think he's done fine. I mean, again, if they can be without Robert Williams, if you told me that they're a top 3 or 4 seed and they get home court advantage without Robert Williams before he comes back, they're a top 4 team and they have home court advantage for the first round, then to me, Joe Mazzulla has done his job.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where they are right now.
Jeff, is Mazzulla, not his credibility, but is his position, I was going to be over dramatic and say as a leader of men, my John Facenda voice, but, as a head coach for the Celtics and credibility, is that hurt at all by the fact that his old boss and their favorite guy is now with the Nets. Does that hurt Mazzulla?
Well, on one hand, it hurts him because those players are going to be looking at now what Ime does. And Ime can only go up. I mean, that's the thing. It can't get really worse in Brooklyn. I mean, it can, but it can't. Right on the court, the results have been atrocious. So they're going to be better, most likely. And they may be better without Kyrie to some extent because, again, they less drama if he's away from the team. I will say, I think it helps Joe Mazzulla in a way of, all right, now he can kind of take a breath. He doesn't have the questions about Ime still being suspended. Not that anybody thought that Ime was ever going to coach the Celtics again, but that part is over. And now maybe there's a little bit less pressure of, all right, you know what? As long as I do what I got to do here, I'm going to be the next head coach of the Celtics. The interim tag is going to be removed as long as I don't screw this thing up. And by not screwing it up, it just means, to me, if you have a healthy team come playoffs, you got to get to the Eastern Conference Finals again. I don't know if you have to get to the NBA Finals. Maybe. But I think if you get to the Eastern Conference Finals, Joe Mazzulla has the interim tag removed, and he might have it removed before then. Who knows? They may say, Wick may say halfway through the year, he's done a hell of a job. They got him in the number 3 spot without Robert Williams. We're going to remove it and give him the job and give him a 4-year, 5-year deal.
Bob, you got any thoughts on that?
No, I agree pretty much on that. We need to see it play out. We need to see. We do know that he walked in with the approval and endorsement of those players to start. It wasn't like they brought in some guy from Mars. They brought in a guy that they liked and knew right away. The very first day, he got an endorsement from Jason Tatum, public endorsement. They want to play for this guy, and that's big deal in this league. He's
likable. Like Mazzulla. Here's what Mazzulla is. He's super likable. He is realistic about himself and the situation that he walked into, and he's going to be inclusive of these star players, which Ime was too at a certain point. And I think you have to be these days. And that's something that, again, goes a long way with these guys, right? I'll promote you publicly, but you better take care of me too.
All right, let's move on to some college stuff. And I know Bob is very interested to hear Jeff's thought on this. It's crazy. Just to set the table here quickly, Bob, is we know the NCAA is not worried about time. So 5 years later with Louisville, they're fined $5,000, gets a slap on the wrist, and this was for a player, Adidas getting $100,000. Pitino's gone, the coaches are gone, everybody's fine. So
not only is Pitino gone, Chris Mack's gone. There are 2 coaches removed.
Right. In Louisville. Right. There are 2 coaches removed. So, it seems that, okay, time heals all wounds. A player got paid, a player that didn't even go to them was given $100,000. And then 5 years later, we'll let it go. Your thoughts, Jeff?
Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead.
No, I want to know what your thoughts. My thoughts, first of all, I did not know until yesterday about the existence of something called the Independent Accountability Resolution Panel, the IARP, quote, a group of high-priced lawyers hired by the NCAA to adjudicate the infractions cases. I didn't even the NCAA. 5 years. How long should it take? What is this? Bob, we could go on for 2 hours about all that kind of stuff. And the final analysis, Louisville got the proverbial slap on the wrist.
Nothing.
Their program has gone to what?
Right. Terrible.
Blank in the last 5 years, though, from a premier and program to nothing, right? Not nothing, but not much.
They're bad right now under first-year head coach.
And they were a royalty. They were part of.
Here's the part you're going to love, Bob. Here's the part you're going to love. This IARP, which I remember talking to the woman who ran it a few years ago, and they were building this thing up. It was going to be the next great thing. A bunch of independent people judging instead of people that were under the NCAA's roof, doling out punishments. Well, it's already gone, by the way. It's already going to be gone. This is it. IARP is going to be abolished here after these next few cases that need to be resolved, Kansas, Arizona, and LSU. So it's been a shit show and hasn't worked.
And
but you know who's
Kansas, Jeff, sorry to interject, but speaking of Kansas, got 4 games self-imposed.
Correct.
For
correct.
things that happened in 2017.
Same thing.
Right.
So the beauty of the IARP, Bob, is that it's been atrocious, right? A complete train wreck. But you know who loves it? One Rick Pitino. because Rick got nothing. You know, he skated by yesterday when they came out with their penalties. And Rick's now at Iona, and Rick's had obviously multiple issues over the years at Louisville. This was the final straw. When it came out that Brian Bowen, the player in question, was given $100,000 by Adidas, it was the final straw for Rick Pitino. It wasn't like this by itself got Rick Pitino run out of Louisville, but the Louisville community, the board of directors, everybody had enough of all the bullshit of Rick. So they said, you know what, like, you're out of here. You're out of here. So Rick was applauding the IARP yesterday and saying, well, it's not done by hearsay like the NCAA's investigations have been done. It's done with facts. And I agree with him on that part of it. Like, it's a little bit better in that regard. But obviously, if it was good, it wouldn't be abolished here after the next few.
Right. Yeah, Bob was having a good laugh about this whole situation.
How about this? So I was in Newport, Rhode Island, guys, this past couple of days.
Yeah.
My anniversary. So we went to Newport for a couple of days.
Congratulations. She hung in there.
She did. Yes, she did. She's hung in a long time, 22 years. So 5+ years ago, September 26, 2017, I woke up at the Marriott in Newport, you know, just down the street from where I was staying, woke up, got a cup of coffee, was going to head over to Salve Regina for Celtics training camp, and the Kyrie Irving era in Boston and Gordon Hayward era in Boston was supposed to start that day. And I woke up, got a cup of coffee, went back to my hotel, was a little bit late, and then all hell broke loose with the FBI putting out, you know, arresting Book Richardson and Tony Bland and all these guys all across the country, 11 guys getting arrested as part of the college basketball sting operation. That was 5+ years ago. I was back in Newport, Rhode Island, breaking the news that Kansas had self-imposed a 4-game suspension for Bill Self and Curtis Townsend, their assistant. And then the next day, the Louisville stuff comes out. 5+ years later, that stuff is still going on.
It's amazing.
It's ridiculous.
All right, guys. Listen, thank you so much. This has been a lot of meat on the tables.
Well, next time, let's hope there's more talk about what happens on the court than off.
Yeah, I don't know, dude, but I'll tell you, it's what kept us going all summer, Bob. Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, and Gary Tanguay.
Okay.
This episode of the Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman podcast is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase.